Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So welcome. Jennifer, will you be here for some Devotees? No. Okay. We are supposed to sing the bhajan, and I thought maybe we would invite you to sing. Okay, so we are reading today Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya Lila, chapter 24, called Explanation of the Atmarama verse, and verse, thank you, 211 and 212. So I recite first the 211 alone. Eunisha artakarilu ageshuna ara atmasha vedehaka hechari artatara. I have already explained so it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami. He's explaining this famous Atmarama verse, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling this verse is actually paying attention to every word of the verse and explaining in detail and giving many different perspectives. And so the verse goes like this: I have already explained 19 different meanings. Now please hear further meanings. The word Atma also refers to the body, and this can be taken in 4 ways. So it's interesting because in the verse he speaks of the body that can be taken in 4 ways. Atma means the body, and we can understand it in 4 different ways. But the next verse do not speak about that. So Prabhupada is kind enough to give us a little purport where he speaks about those 4 ways, how the body can be referred to. It's a little not so crystal clear, but here is the purport. The 4 divisions of meaning of the word deha, body, are Opadika Brahma Deha, the material body considered as Brahman with designations, which is a little, usually Brahman has no designation, but here the body can be seen as Brahman with designation. Little enigmatic. Then the second way we can understand body is karma nishta yaknikera karma deha, the body engaged in ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedic injunctions. Then the third way is tapodeha, the body engaged in austerities and penances. And the 4th one is sarva kama deha, the body engaged for the satisfaction of all kinds of material desires. So that's the end of the purport. So 4 types of different body are mentioned here more in detail. The body that one can see as Brahman, the body that we use for Vedic ceremonies or Vedic rituals, the body that is used for austerities, and the body that we use for sense gratification. And we were reading recently in Golokadam the verse 2 of chapter 3 of Canto 8, the story of Gajendra. And then Srila Prabhupada writes that wish you a wonderful breakfast. Prabhupada was writing that the material body is meant for sense gratification, and the spiritual body is meant for the satisfaction of the Lord. I found it quite interesting insight. So we will read one more verse, the verse that we have in the board that we will also recite, that brings a point a little bit more, a little more depth that we can elaborate on. So we will just have word by word first, so that we get a little glimpse of what is the meaning that we will recite afterward. Please repeat after me. Deharami.
Deharami.
Persons who have accepted the body
Persons who have accepted the body
as the self
as the self
and are interested only in sense gratification.
and are interested only in sense gratification.
Dehe.
Dehe.
In the body.
In the body.
Bhaje.
Bhaje.
Worships.
Worships.
Deha upadi brahma.
Deha upadi brahma.
Brahman having the body as a designation.
Brahman having the body as a designation.
Satsange.
Satsange.
In the association of devotees.
In the association of devotees.
Seha.
Seha.
Such a person.
Such a person.
Kare.
Kare.
Does.
Does.
Krishnera bhajana.
Krishnera bhajana.
Service to Lord Krishna.
Service to Lord Krishna.
So, Deharami dehe bhaje deo hopi Deharami dehe bhaje deo hopadi brahma.
Deharami devache devapadi brahma.
Deharami dehe bhaje deo hopadi brahma.
Deharami devache devapadi brahma.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
Deharami dehe bhaje dehopadi brahma.
Deharami devache devapadi brahma.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
Satsange sehakare Krishnera bhajana.
One, in the bodily conception, worship his own body as Brahman. But when he comes in contact with a devotee, he gives up this mistaken idea and engages himself in the devotional service of Lord Krishna. Please repeat after me. One, in the bodily conception,
One in the bodily conception
worships his own body as Brahman.
worships his own body as Brahman.
But when he comes in contact with a devotee,
But when he comes in contact with a devotee,
he gives up this mistaken idea
he gives up his mistaken idea
and engages himself in the devotional service of Lord Krishna.
and engages himself in the devotional service of Lord Krishna.
Thank you. So we chant few prayers, invocation, invoking auspiciousness, so that I may be able to deliver inspiring lecture, and you might like to invoke auspiciousness so that you can be good recipients of the lecture. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sanatana Goswami sitting together with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now revealing all this very deep knowledge, and especially now in this explanation of the Atmarama verse, which is explained many times, I think 61 times altogether.
64?
Or 64? Yeah? Okay. And now he is in the 19th. So he explained the different, that the word Atma can be translated as body, or sometimes it's translated as soul. There are different ways we translate that word, and there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned those 4 ways the body can be seen, and that Prabhupada elaborate a little bit on that. But then in the next verse he explained that we usually see the body, or one usually see the body as Brahman. I understand it like as the all in all, as the most important things. And that's very much the case in our life. For us, our body and our mind is most probably the most important things, or the most valuable thing. We can let go of many things in life, but when it's the time to let go of our body, that's the biggest challenge. Like Prabhupada would say, that's the last final exam of life, that we have to live up our body. So this is in the conditioned state, that our body is so important, so much the all in all. But the Mahaprabhu said, but when we come in association with devotees, then we actually get the strength and the understanding and knowledge to actually not focus so much on the body and mind, but actually to focus to our real identity. And then when we are connected to our real identity, one can engage back into the service of the Lord. So this is a little bit what we have and what we will take as a guideline for today's lecture. So the principle is that by association with devotees, one will be able to give up his identification to the material body and mind and engage himself, or become even fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And that can be done this lifetime. We might not have to wait few, we should do it in this lifetime. So we will see how to develop our real identity. That will be the first section of the lecture. We will see the turning point of being in association with devotees, and also diving into devotional service. So how do we develop our real identity? We know that it is actually quite difficult. We have heard many lectures on this. This is the ABC of Krishna consciousness. We are not the body, we are spiritual soul, and from there the whole process of Krishna consciousness is based on. But we might have noticed it's not so easy to move this theoretical understanding into really feeling it. We know that there are analogies that are given, that this false identification of thinking we are this material body, there are 2 analogies that are very beautiful and powerful to help us to understand. One of them say that it is the false ego, this false identification is like a mountain, a huge mountain that is between us and Krishna. And it's something we have to go beyond and cross over. And another analogy that is given is like an anchor, like a boat. They have this anchor that goes into the water and keep the boat to not move forward. So this identification to being the body is the anchor that keeps us very tightly into material consciousness, and do not allow us to go so easily into spiritual consciousness. Sometimes devotees, they become a little bit annoyed to hear about that. Oh, I have heard so many times, I'm not the body. But I think one of the main reasons of becoming annoyed with that is a feeling of helplessness that I've heard so often, but I still did not have realized it, and one feel uncomfortable with that. But actually, if we don't have realized it, that means we have to hear many more times, so that we hopefully one day can realize that. But still, there are things that we can do. My spiritual master is often speaking recently of an identity kit. Like we might have a medical kit in our car with different things for medicine. We might have a tool kit for doing construction work with many tools together. And he speaks of the identity kit that we keep with us, with all what we think actually we are. That we are a man, that we are a German, that we are intelligent, that we are a doctor, that we are a father, or whatever. And this is something we are very attached to. We all the time keep with us this kit, this identity kit, that we actually should let go as we are progressing in Krishna consciousness. So I would like to ask you, what can we practically do to develop our real identity and let go of this false identity? What could be your suggestion? Now we look in practical things that we can do. And what could be your proposal? What can we do today to develop our spiritual identity and let go of the material one? Yes?
Associate with the devotees.
Okay.
Just hold on to chanting.
Okay, very good.
And faith in chanting.
Faith in chanting. Okay. Thank you. You are right on the spot. That's actually what the verse say. That by association with devotee, we will develop this real identity and let go of the old one. What else could be done?
Particular today, or?
Yeah, let's see it like this. Yeah.
So today is Sunday Love Feast, and
Okay.
we can receive all the guests and share Krishna consciousness with them, and in this way, this is something that Krishna really likes, and people are coming, so we have to give them something, and I think this is always the most ecstatic of the week.
Okay.
To share.
Okay. How do you connect that with realizing that your real identity? How will it help you to realize that you are a spiritual soul? In which way will that contribute for you to realize you are a spiritual soul?
Because sharing Krishna consciousness is the activity of the soul, and the more engaged in this activity, I become also free of my false ego and re-established on the spiritual platform.
Okay, good. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Yes.
It's useful if we remember our goal every day, like for example 3 times that we don't forget before we go to bed or like after wake up immediately. Some or while taking prasadam or something. And sing the prasadam prayers, what it actually means.
Yeah.
And I found it funny. I didn't do it yet, but to put the sign on the mirror that you are actually not this body, especially for ladies. It's really helpful.
Okay. I think, often we hear, I'm not this body, and that's true, and that's very much what Prabhupada often said. I personally feel it's a better meditation, who I am, instead of who I am not. I am an eternal spiritual soul, full of eternity and bliss, and I feel that's important to actually remember. Yes?
Recently I listened to one lecture by Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, and he spoke about the 5 most powerful angas of devotional service: chanting the holy name, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, association with Vaishnavas, living in the holy Dharma, and deity worship. And he said if we don't have proper attitude, we won't get the whole benefit from this angas of devotional service. It will work for us, but very slowly, maybe for many lifetimes. And he said it's very important to have proper attitude. And also I'm looking at the verse, and how can we get this proper attitude? Sadhu Sangha, associating with those who have this proper attitude. And we can cultivate this proper attitude, then we can derive the whole benefit from this angas of devotional service.
Okay. Jennifer, what is your thoughts on that?
If I look on my experience, like when did I feel like least connected with that identification, I think was probably during kirtan, like when the holy name is really in the foreground. And I feel like for me it's difficult if I just go into this negation, like I'm not the body, okay, but what am I? So I feel like for me it's really important that something else becomes more prominent, and during kirtan, by the mercy of the Lord and the devotees, sometimes it's really becomes more prominent. And but also what is really helping me at the moment is almost every day I'm doing like a guided meditation from devotee, and it's really about feeling that I am present in my heart, and I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, but I'm actually the soul who is situated in the heart, and Krishna is also there. And it's like a guided meditation, goes for like 4 minutes or so, but it's very powerful. And I'm doing it for some weeks, and it's really beginning to become more and more present.
Thank you very much. How does it feel? Did you sometimes experience feeling yourself inside of the body and being the soul and have nothing to do with the external body? Did you sometimes got this feeling? How does it feel? How is it? Yeah?
I was at this Radha Kund in Mayapur, and it was so beautiful to just feel that actually we are a small servant of Krishna, like really to feel it, and it felt super light. It was like it was nothing but super light and loving.
Okay.
Then I got to know what it actually means if we are childlike, like really, not identifying.
Okay. So thank you so much for your contribution so far. I think I need to move forward with what I prepared. Association of devotees and scriptures. This is definitely something that will all the time remind us. And here I want to put a particular attention into this word remembering, because that's actually very, very essential to go deeper into this feeling that we remember, that we have all the time to remember I am a spiritual soul. I was also hearing a lecture from Bhakti-Vigyan Goswami Maharaj recently. He was speaking a verse on the story of Puranjana in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very deep allegory of a person staying in the city of the 9 gates. And he was saying that if one read the story again and again and again for a certain amount of time, I don't remember, but it was quite substantial, maybe 50 times or something like this, then one is assured that he will not identify anymore with the material body. But then he was saying something very nice that I found also very practical. It's also like a type of meditation. He said that usually a conditioned soul is overdoing or we could say he overdo his emotional state. That means when he feels something good, it's so good. And when he feels something bad, so bad. But he was saying a devotee, he will underdo those feelings, material feelings, not spiritual feeling, material feeling. So when it's very, very nice, you think, it's okay. And when it's very, very bad, you also say, it's okay. So I found it actually very nice approach that helps us to detach a little bit from the material covering that is around us, to not take actually those happiness and distress in a too serious mode. And another point that I found very important and very helpful is actually meditation. It's actually meditation to remember I am a spiritual soul, I am not this material body. I sometimes do that during kirtan, when we sing or when we dance in kirtan, and I feel that I have like wings that comes up when I feel this lightness coming up, and I just feel like raising my arms, and yeah, I just feel so happy and almost like liberated from the bodily conception of life. It's actually a very, very nice feeling. Usually we are supposed to do that before we do spiritual practices. For example, the pujaris, before they start to do service on the altar, they have Buddha Shuddhi prayer, that they remember that I am a spiritual soul, and they fix their mind into this understanding, and with this consciousness they go on the altar and they start to do the service. And one of the verses, Naham Vipro, Naham Vipro, I don't remember exactly, but this is a verse that was chanted. Anyone knows who and when this verse was chanted? Yeah?
By Lord Chaitanya, but where I don't remember. I don't know.
In the middle of the Ratha Yatra. He was dancing in front of Jagannath, and he started to say this verse that say, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Shudra, I'm an eternal servant of the gopis. So this is actually what Pujari does, and what one can do actually before any service. And what to say about chanting of the holy name when we chant our japa, to also take this start with the consciousness. Now I'm not anymore anything to do with this body, and all the thoughts that are passing through my mind, I'm actually separated from that. And in this consciousness we chant the holy name. And we were just now in the Gaurahari retreat in India, just now, it was in December, November, and Bhujan Prabhu was giving a lecture, and he spoke of I think it's 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Purushottam Yoga, where we hear of this banyan tree that is the reflection into the water. And then he was saying, actually, the root is the identification. And then from the identification, the first thing that comes is desire. So this is like a crucial point of understanding, because when we the identification of being the body and the mind, then from that all material desire are sprouting, all material desire are coming. But when we are identified as being a spiritual soul, then all spiritual desire can take root. When we know that we are a spiritual soul, then the desire that is there is, I want to please my Lord. I want to have a relationship with my Lord, and then from there, spiritual desires can sprout. So it's just like such an important foundation that can make the total 180 degree in different direction, just by this phenomenon of being into the right identity. And that's something that we can do like a meditation. Or meditation sometimes means, okay, you have to sit for a long time and do breathing and do everything, but you can have small meditation. I did a research work. I'm planning to make a seminar on meditation, Krishna meditation, and I was researching the quotes of Prabhupada's on meditation, what Prabhupada said on meditation. And so often he said the meditation is to meditate. We are a spiritual soul, we are not the body. And that can be done like this. It means you just remember, oh, I am eternal spiritual soul. While we chant japa, I'm giving some japa workshop once a week online, and one exercise we had is, anytime you notice the mind was gone, you bring it back, remembering I am eternal spiritual soul, and my service now is to listen the holy name. And then you chant, and as soon the mind goes. So, because the mind goes away often, sometimes after 2 or 3 names, the mind is already gone. So when you do this exercise, and all the time you bring the mind back, and all the time you remember, I am an eternal spiritual soul, it's actually make a deep imprint. And after sometimes, you feel just so blissful to remember who you are. You feel it's like a relief. It's like a very, very beautiful experience to remember that you are a spiritual soul. And then I notice after the japa session, it stays with you, and you just feel that you are a spiritual soul, and it's just so liberating and blissful experience. And from there you can really genuinely connect into Krishna consciousness. And so the point I want to make is like by meditation or remembrance or meditation that we are spiritual soul, it's actually making a huge impact into our way of practicing Krishna consciousness. And another meditation I want to bring on the table is in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, there is Lord Brahma who is approaching, let me see, is Sanaka Kumar approaching Lord Brahma, and he is asking a question to Lord Brahma, and his question is, how he said the senses and the sense objects seems to be so strongly connected together. He said it seems nothing can separate the sense object to the senses all the time. So how can we separate them? And Lord Brahma feels a little bit unsure about the answer. And at that time, someone is coming. And this is the Hamsa avatar. This is Krishna in the form of a swan who comes. And Hamsa avatar gives the answer. And the answer is, you cannot. You cannot separate the sense object with the senses. No way. But you can separate yourself from the senses and the sense object. And then he said, how you can do that? And he said, by remembering that you have the same quality as the Lord. The Lord speaking, by remembering you have the same quality as I. You are of the same quality as me. And then he said, by doing this meditation, remembering that, the modes of material nature falls apart, breaks apart. When you remember that you have the same nature of the Lord, modes of material nature falls apart. And I have experienced sometimes trying to meditate and remember I am of the same nature as the Lord. And sometimes you do service and you can feel Rajagun is there. You can feel you are pushed, you are tense, you are attached, you are doing very quick what you are supposed to do. You can feel Rajagun is there. You just remember I am of the same nature of the Lord. Everything goes. You can still do fast what you want to do, but you are relieved from the modes of material nature. And you are back into your spiritual identity of being eternal spiritual soul. So this is one takeaway I want to bring. Try to do those meditations as you are going through the day, of remembering that you are eternal spiritual soul, that you are of the same quality of the Lord, that you have actually nothing to do with the tension and the let's say difficulties or suffering of this material world. You are actually not supposed to be touched by anything of this material energy around you. And this can also be done during the day as you go through the day, but also during your sadhana and your spiritual practice services, to always try to connect there. So this is definitely something that will come more and more as we progress in Krishna consciousness, but we also should do something to help it to come. Okay, that was for the first section of realizing that you are an eternal spiritual soul, and now is the turning point of devotee association, which is very, very much helping, because without the devotees, how can we even get a clue of who we are? So devotees, the scriptures, they are all the time reminding us that we are spiritual soul. I remember one of my good friends in Krishna consciousness, his name was Gaurahari, got re-initiation later on, Jaganandu, something like this. He's living in Langenthal. When we will cross each other in the temple, in Zurich temple, he will always say, "Hey, spiritual soul." He will greet me, "Hey, spirit soul, hey, spirit soul." So, oh yeah, I'm a spirit soul. Jagannath Baladev, so the devotees, they will help us to get out of this conception of life. I found some quotes, actually in Srimad Bhagavatam, the association of devotees is so often underlined as something very important. And in the story of Jagabharat, discussion with Maharaj Rahugana, Shukadev Goswami speaks a verse where he says, "My dear king," so Shukadev Goswami speaks to Maharaj Parikshit, "My dear king, whoever takes shelter of the servant of the Lord is certainly glorified." Why? Because he can without difficulty give up the bodily conception. So he said, if one takes shelter of the devotee, he actually is very glorious. Why? Because he can actually give up the bodily identification. And then a little bit later, into this discussion between Maharaj Rahugana and Jagabharat, Maharaj Rahugana, actually here I will read it, it's quoted by in the book of Bhujan Prabhu, The Whale Begins to Part. Maharaj Rahugana was qualified to hear from Jagabharat because of his great faith in the Absolute Truth. That faith allowed him to listen to the sage's potent words and became free, and he became free from his false identification, including his conception of himself as a king. So here he was hearing from the devotee, but he was hearing with great faith into the Absolute Truth and great attention. Because we could ask, we have quite some association with devotees, we read the books of Prabhupada, but still it seems we are so often fully identified as being the body and the mind, and just moved right and left by all the thoughts that tell us to do this, do that, and we are just like slave of our mind and just doing all of that. So here there is this point of some special qualification needs to be, there's some special adjustment in our way of associating that needs to be there, so that actually is very powerful. And one is the faith, having faith into the words of the sadhus, taking shelter of the sadhus. So that's, I thought, something we often hear, but often we don't go deep enough to make this association work really, to be powerful enough to make the transformation inside of our heart. I was also reflecting how much is our association. Often we think association means we are living with devotees. This is the association with devotees. I see in our community in Golokadam, I have few devotees that reveal to me that they feel actually lonely. They are living in the community, they come regularly doing service, but they don't have an enlivening association with the devotees. I mean, it's nice, you still feel something being close to devotees, but the real association is actually there when one shares about Krishna consciousness, when one is actually revealing his heart, seeks loving exchange, but mainly when one actually is accustomed to speak about Krishna and hear about Krishna and share realizations. And that's, I think, something we often miss in Krishna consciousness. Even in Vrindavan, when we were there, I was meeting with one or two devotees who were telling me that they miss association. They miss the proper quality of association. And I always try, when we take prasadam together with devotee, to not just be on the mundane level of things, but having discussion of having something to share about my reading, about my experience, my meditations in Krishna consciousness, and also asking. Sometimes I ask the devotee, please give me some words of wisdom. And often the devotees are uncomfortable. They are not accustomed to speak something spiritual. And, I have no wisdom. No. But it's actually something we have to learn. And that's in the Chatushloki of Bhagavad Gita, one of the verses with Parasparam. That's so the devotee, they are all the time enlightening each other with words of Krishna consciousness. So I thought if we really want the power of association, is something we need to actually learn to do. There is a devotee, now if I can get his name back, Braj. He is the leader of a school in Vrindavan, the Vidyalaya school. Braj Sundar Prabhu. He was coming to Golokadam, also he was giving some lecture, and in the morning he will come to Prabhupada and he will stay like at least 5 minutes to 10 minutes in front of Prabhupada like this, praying. And then I ask him, how do you do to pray so long? Usually devotees they come and then gone. I say, how do you pray so long? And what do you pray for? And he say, I pray for association with advanced devotees. I'm praying because this is going to make a difference. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said we should associate with devotees that are more advanced than us. And then 2 other things he said. Anyone knows the 2 other things Krishnadas Kaviraj said?
Like-minded also.
Like-minded, yes. He said actually devotees who loves us and devotees who knows us. That's included a little in the like-minded parts. So that they know us, they love us, they are compassionate toward us, and they are more advanced. Those are the devotees to whom we should go and ask for instruction and take shelter from such devotees. I wanted to make a little story into. My Gurumaj was recently giving a lecture, and he said, in lecture we should have 30% of philosophy and 70% of story, because that's what is going to touch. I'm not sure I fit so good into the ratio today, but anyway, that's a story that is quite moving. Sometimes I almost move to tears when I tell it. It happened in America at the Sunday Feast program. After the Sunday Feast, the lecture was finished, devotees were moving and going to take prasad into another place, and the man entered into it and was standing in front of Prabhupada. And then suddenly the man started to cry. And the devotee went to this unusual guest. They never saw him, and they asked him, why do you cry? What is happening? They took him out, they set him on a chair, and they asked him. And this man shared that he had met Srila Prabhupada in King Square Park. And he said, I saw Srila Prabhupada who was singing, and he invited me to sit next to him. And he said his voice was soft, but we could hear him from so far. And then Prabhupada looked at me when I was sitting next to him, and seeing the state, how intoxicated I was, Prabhupada moved his head and said, "You are doing nonsense. You are on the wrong way of life." And then he said that as long as Prabhupada was staying there in New York, in the lower east side or lower east side, everyone was speaking about God. But when Prabhupada left, everything was becoming again very covered, materially covered. And he said, I lost everything in my life, but I always remembered Prabhupada. He said when Prabhupada is actually the person that get me most in my life. And I've always had the desire to meet Prabhupada again. And then he said, last week I was in a bookshop and I found a book of Prabhupada. And there it was written, the title of the book was, He Only Could Guide Them. And then wow, this is the person, this is Prabhupada, the person I was meeting. So he looked behind and he saw the temple address. And then I came here and I saw Prabhupada. Oh, finally I can meet him again. And then he noticed that it was a deity, it was not Prabhupada himself. So that's a story I find very beautiful in this point of power of association, especially association with advanced devotees. That can make like very, very deep impact into our consciousness. And then at the end, when we associate with devotee and we understand that we are eternal spiritual soul, then it's just natural that we engage ourselves in devotional service. And that there we want to dive into this devotional service, this feeling of offering what we are doing for the pleasure of the Lord, for the pleasure of Guru. And this is very much the entry door of understanding our real identity, to really go into this feeling of doing it for the pleasure of Guru and pleasure of Krishna. I have many more notes on devotional service. Maybe one thing I would like to quote, because time is already up. Last year we were, because devotional service, it's going in two ways. Mainly we, on the way of our spiritual practice, when we change up, when we read, when we do the 9 items of devotional service, but also everything we do, the practical service that we are doing should be in the mood of service. And we were, that was last year, we were visiting, we were in Vrindavan, and we were actually praying for association. We were praying, Krishna, please give us association of advanced devotees. And we were crossing the MVT place, and then we met Srimati Mataji, who is living in Vrindavan since many, many, many years, very advanced soul. So my wife was asking something about chanting with feelings, chanting the holy name nicely, and asked how to do that. And she gave the answer as time. She said time. And my wife thought, okay, it means time, means be patient. You need time, and in due course of time it will happen. So she asked for clarification, and then Srimati Mataji said, no, you need to take time. You need to take time to be more into a reflective mode. And she said, she quoted, that was from Vallabha Sampradaya, or something like this. There is one saint was saying that Kanishta Adhikari, they need mercy, a lot of mercy. Uttama Adhikari, they need Krishna. And that's all they need. They just want, they are focused on Krishna, or realizing Krishna consciousness. And then she said the Madhyama Adhikari needs time. He needs time to reflect. He needs time to introspect. He needs times to do all the process of devotional service with care and attention, with reflected. And often we see in the first stage of Krishna consciousness we have a lot of passion, and we do, but sometimes we feel I'm doing so much, but my heart is dry. I'm not able, especially in the beginning we have the enthusiasm, utsaha mahi, the first enthusiasm, no problem, yoo-hoo, super good. But when this is slowly fading away, then is the time when we need to take actually time to think, time to introspect, and time to actually go carefully into our practice of devotional service, so that we do it actually in the proper way, with the proper attitude. So that was what I wanted to share with you today. The principle is that by associating with devotee, one can give up our false identification of being the body, and we can start to perform devotional service in a genuine way. And I hope we get some confidence that this is possible. Sometimes we get hopeless that we will ever make it to realize that we are in the eternal spiritual soul. It is possible, but we need the right association. Okay, we are right on time for the end of the lecture. Sorry, I don't give much space for questions or reflections, but I don't know, can we take a little extra time? Yeah? It's okay. If you have any reflections or questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful wisdom. I just wanted to share a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that is really fitting to this topic.
Okay.
And wonderful. And sometimes I did it as a prayer also. It's from Dhruva Maharaj, from 3rd Canto, 9th chapter, text again. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated stage of mind. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nescience ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes?
I have one question. We always hear that we are not the body, we are not man, woman, and all this, and not our designations. And then I feel sometimes we jump too quickly on this transcendental platform, or we imagine we are there. And so for myself, it also helps to understand in what position I am. That I'm a man, I have this interest, I have this varna and all these things, and then engage this nature in Krishna's service. So maybe this is Mishra Bhakti or something, but can you maybe shed some light on this aspect to understand? I'm now in this position, and most of the time I working, and only little time I engage in direct devotional service. So.
Yeah, it's a very, very nice question. Even would say a reflection. We still are into a man body or into a woman body, and we also have to accept the body as some limitations or some qualities that we can use in Krishna's service that we have to notice. And I heard actually only when you are on the level of when you are totally pure, or when you are in the level of liberation, then you don't need to pay any attention to Varna or to anything. But as long as we are actually not in the stage of liberation, then we have actually to take in consideration. But still one can do that with the understanding that I'm not that, but those are my tools. This body is the tool that I have to serve the Lord. So this tool is fitting for, if you have a roll for painting, then this tool is meant for painting. You cannot, you could use it as a hammer, but that will not really work well. So the idea is that you still identify yourself as the eternal spiritual soul, but you see your body and mind as objects, that as tool that are given to you by the Lord, and that now you engage back into the service of the Lord. But when you identify yourself fully with the body, and then you will have many desires connected to that particular body. And what to say about the mind? I mean, the mind is tricking us from morning to evening, since we are all the time telling those do this, do that, and it's moved by the modes of material nature, and we are just constantly misguided. I mean, sometimes it's also our friend, and sometimes it's not too bad, but it's really very, very important we learn this art of so much suffering. You know, we hear about the three kleshas, the suffering given by other people, suffering from natural catastrophe, and suffering from the mind. But if you analyze, they all go through the mind. When something happened, the catastrophe, I mean, it affects the body, but the mind is very affected as well. When people are doing something, telling us something bad, it also goes through the filter of the mind. So it's, I think, very, very important we learn to still, as much as possible, to detach. But it's not that we neglect the body, but we use the body as an instrument. We recognize, okay, this is the instrument I got in this lifetime, I will use it nicely in Krishna. But to fully identify with it, you just create a lot of material desire and material sufferings. Yeah. Is that okay?
Thank you. So internally after meditation about our identity as a servant of Krishna, but externally we are engaged in a specific way.
And when you do that, when you can remember that, it's a big relief. It's a very, very sweet feeling, very happy feeling. So let's try to remember as often as possible, before practice, during practice, after practice, in life, in everything we do. It's also practice to remember. And when you do it, it's actually very, very blissful. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice to see how all of you are thinking deeply. I mean, both of you have like nice, sharp intelligence. You can grasp the topic and reflect on it, and also your question is very good. Jennifer is a little shy, it's okay. But it's very, very, very nice. You are the future of Krishna consciousness, you are the younger generation, and it's very nice to see you got some good training and you are nicely engaging your talents in Krishna consciousness. So stop here, Gaurahari. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
His grace, Gaurahari.
Jai.
Yeah, sure.
Yesterday we were reading this verses that I have the association of devotees was so important that we actually should strive just to associate with devotees. And I myself, I get influenced very easily by association with others. But then we also know that it's a very important point to share and to associate with non-devotees as well in that sense. And of course we also know that association actually truly takes place if we take qualities of them. But then we have to really know where we are standing and how to associate with others is difficult for me. So maybe you can help in that sense that I really know when to associate with whom, how.
Yesterday I was, after lunch, I was cleaning my plate down, and there was a discussion, and one seems to be Indian guest or something like this, and he was speaking of breaking the rules, the regulation, and that something is still alright, and things like this. And I went to clean my plate, and I just let's get away from here as soon as possible. And I think that's, I mean, in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, we have still quite a lot of, I mean, I don't want to say lens or something like this, but we have some attraction for hearing bad things. And when someone criticizes, we might feel, oh yeah, and we might criticize this. But as we get more and more purified, it becomes like, you immediately want to run away when you hear someone criticize, or when some of those negative association is coming toward you, you immediately feel like removing yourself, and because you feel like this, you do it. But most of the time, of course, if you are with parents or something like this, it might be a little bit more sometimes when something like let's say you are preaching to someone and the person starts to speak bad, or you get some bad vibration, and because you are preaching you cannot just run away at that time. So what I do usually, I chant in the mind. I note my head, but inside I chant the mantra, and as soon as the person stops, I bring it into another, I gear back the discussion to another topic. But yeah, it's very, also people, we respect everyone, and we respect everyone, but then it's also, there are sometimes even in the devotees, some people that have sometimes still tendency of criticizing or fault finding or things like this. Then I usually keep some, I'm kind if they approach me or like this, I communicate nicely and like this. But if, for example, I go to take prasad and I would rather sit to someone, I will choose to be with devotees who can uplift me, or with whom I can maybe also contribute to their upliftment, and that we can generate together some deeper Krishna consciousness. So I think as we progress, we give respect to everyone, but we always look the association that can give us more strength, and try to avoid as much as possible what is going to take us down. Is that all right? Is that fitting?
Just one more additional question, if we're going to work or studying, it's usually difficult. So, first of all, we really have to protect ourselves actually to get to a certain stage that you were mentioning also, where we can go into the word and act in the word again. So.
With people at work and something like, if you look at the austerity of speech in Bhagavad Gita, one is actually, one is to speak the truth, to speak gently or softly or kindly, and one is actually to have words that uplifting words. So this is something you can do when you are at work or like this, or at school or something like this. Whatever you discuss with others, try to ask them question that brings some upliftment into their life. And because some they might not be Krishna conscious or devotees or like this, but they are open for having a better life and things like this. So with those one, might be good from time to time to speak with them and try to give them something. And if something bad comes here and there, you change in the mind and like this. But if they are like very negative by nature or like this, then it's better to keep your distance. When I was, before I joined, I was already practicing, but there was no devotees, and I had one Christian friend, I had one Sufi friend, and we would associate like this. We would just share about God together. So then you can choose, because it's good to still have associate. If you are only with anyone, then you also it's also counterproductive for preaching. That they say, wow, she's too strange and things like this. So check a little bit with whom you can maybe uplift, and try to give association